Dear Presidents, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to speak today at this interesting forum about notarial acts related to digital assets. This topic has indeed gained a lot of attention in the last years. Not only are digital accounts, for example social platforms, becoming more and more important in our everyday life, they have also evolved to be one of the most common means of communication. Today, many major assets are only accessible via digital accounts. Just think of your online banking or your email account. Due to this, fast and easy access is also often crucial to keep a business running after the death of one of its owners. It is therefore relatively surprising that many citizens still don't think of the digital assets when they planning their estate. When we talk about digital inheritance in Germany, several aspects have to be taken into account, many of which have only come up in recent years. Let me first give you a short overview of how digital inheritance is organized actually in Germany and what problems heirs face. In a second step, I will then present some solutions to you of how to organize the inheritance of digital assets in a reasonable and precautionary manner. Turning first to the way digital assets can be inherited in Germany. The German Civil Code follows the principle of universal succession, meaning that the heir takes over the legal position of the decedent concerning all assets, rights and obligations. For tangible assets, this means that things that were owned by the decedent are then owned by the new owner, the heir. For contracts, this means that the heir takes over the contractual position of the decedent, becoming the new contractual partner with the same rights, obligations, and everything else. Of course, the Civil Code dated back to 1900 did not foresee digital assets. But actually, this is not problematic. When we talk about inheritance and digital assets, one has to make a clear distinction between, on the one hand, the tangible storage media containing the data, and on the other hand, the right to access and use the data contained. The ownership of the storage medium follows the rules of succession of the tangible assets. The right to access and use the digital content is based on a contract which the heir takes over from the previous user. There has been some discussion whether personal accounts, like Facebook accounts, are too closely linked to the person to be inherited by the heir. Also, issues of data protection and confidentiality of communications have been raised. But the Federal Supreme Court has made clear that access rights to Facebook can be inherited too. So consequently, there's no problem for the heir to inherit digital asset. Well, as a matter of fact, it is not so easy. Heirs still unfortunately face some problems. First of all, even after the recent landmark decision of the Federal Court, there are some issues that are uncertain. Because of this, in case of doubt, providers tend to rather deny access because they face potential liability. And even if they grant access, the heir must often undergo a lengthy and complicated procedure. And finally, there are many foreign providers who just don't care about the German court decision. So in reality, heirs often face difficulties when they want to access accounts. This can create severe problems. The heir cannot access business data, bills are not paid, and deadlines have been missed. It is therefore obvious that it is of utmost importance for business people as well as for private individuals to organize the access to digital accounts after their death. When planning your digital inheritance, there are two aspects that need to be taken into account. First, you have to decide who should be entitled to access your digital assets. In a second step, you should therefore make sure that these people are factually able to access the accounts. Deciding on who should inherit the asset is most commonly done via a will. It is advisable, in this case, to draw up your will before a notary, because in this way the notary can make sure that there are no ambiguities in the text and guarantee legal certainty for the parties. It is, of course, possible to give the digital assets to the heir who will inherit the rest of the estate. However, it might be a better idea to rather select someone with more experience in digital matters. This might be a legatee or an estate administrator. It is also possible to give them special orders as to how to handle the digital asset after one's death. For example, which data and which accounts should be deleted. It might also be wise to choose different people for business and for private content. In a second step, one should then make sure that heirs can actually directly access the assets. As explained before, heirs might often need too much time to access the accounts if they have to wait for providers to grant them access. There are several businesses on the market who offer to take care about digital inheritance. But unfortunately, data protection is often an issue here. The testator can also not be sure that the right people are granted access after they're gone. The service might also suddenly no longer become available, e.g. in case of insolvency. Therefore, it is better to use common means of estate planning. Obviously, no heir can access accounts if they do not know that they exist. Therefore, the first step is always to make a list of all accounts. It would then seem natural to also make a list of passwords and to leave them somewhere so that the heirs can use them. This is, however, not safe at all. It would also be possible to include the passwords in the will drawn up by the notary. While the content of the will is confidential before death, after death its content is made accessible to several parties, including the court and people entitled to a reserved portion. This is not very secure either. The password might still be seen by too many and possibly the wrong people. A better idea is therefore to have a handwritten list of passwords which is deposited with a notary and not made public. In this way, the list is also being kept secret after death. But keeping a deposited list of passwords poses another problem. It is very cumbersome to change the list if you either change passwords or if you add new accounts. Notaries in Germany therefore propose a different solution. All the passwords should be saved on a list on a USB drive. The USB drive is then locked by a master password. The USB drive remains with the citizen. The master password, as well as the information where the USB drive can be found, is contained in a handwritten document deposited with a notary. This solution has several advantages. First, it is possible to modify and adapt the contents of the USB drive without having to change the deposited master password. It is even possible to change the type of storage medium to upgrade it to the newest technology. The document containing the master password can be deposited with the notary, which is an extremely safe and long-lasting storage method. The notary, as well as their team, are bound by strict confidentiality, and even if the notary retires after several decades, the successor will continue to store and protect the document. Storing the master password with the notary is also quite cheap. The testator can give the notary precise instructions as to whom the notary should hand out a copy of the master password. The notary will also note down each copy handed out so that it is always clear who accessed the information. Compared to all other options, drawing up the will before the notary and providing the notary with a master password is therefore by far the most secure and most economical way of planning digital inheritance. Given the great importance of digital assets, we are expecting an increasing awareness of this topic in the next years. I'm eager to see how this topic evolves. Thank you.